Hi everyone, it's Taylor here. Today I'm going to share with you tips and tricks for mass producing this set of birthday cards, which is made simple with some of our newest products, including the On Repeat Birthday stamp and coordinating die. I'm starting with the On the Block Happy stamp, which has a coordinating shadow die to cut it out. I also mentioned the On Repeat Birthday stamp, which features 8 birthday sentiments and our innovative alignment squares to cut out all 8 in one pass through your die cut machine. I'll be using the balloon strings die along with the balloon bouquet additions and the coordinating dies, and the Bokeh layering stencil to create that pretty polka dot background. I have several different colors of ink that I'll be applying with my blender brushes, including Lollipop and Cupcake, Pineapple and Potato Chip, and Blue Raspberry and Sprinkles. I'll be doing some embossing, so I have my powder tool, white embossing powder, and Versamark. I'll be applying Moon Dust and Nebula Stickles glitter gel with my Nuvo Media spatula. For my adhesives, I have my Tombow liquid glue and Scotch removable tape, along with my foam square roll and foam sticky strips. So let's get started by cutting our paper. Typically when I'm mass producing, I do all of one step at one time. That saves me a lot of time rather than completing one card and then doing the next card all the way through. I do all of one step at once. So here I have 8 sugar cube cardstock panels cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to stencil those with the Bokeh layering stencil. You can see the item number etched into each of the stencils. That indicates which layer you should start with. So I have layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. I'm going to place my cardstock down onto my grid paper placemat and align that stencil over the top, creating a hinge by adhering it with purple tape across the top of the stencil. That's going to allow me to easily switch out the stencils as I move from one to the next. So I've used Cupcake on the top and bottom outer edges of the stencil, and then darker Lollipop in the center. I'm going to do the same thing, just opening up the hinge and replacing with the cardstock panel. I've done 4 panels, and then I'm going to move to number 2. So I have layer number 2 placed over the top, and I'll be doing that with Sprinkles, the lighter ink at the top and bottom of the stencil, and then Blue Raspberry, the darker ink towards the center. Now the stencil is designed so that some of your circles will overlap each other and you'll get a pretty blend of the 2 colors. In this case, the pink and blue makes a purple when it blends together. I thought this combo would work great for girly birthday cards, so now that those 4 are finished, I'm going to set that aside, wash the top of my stencil to get that pink ink off, and then move to a more boyish color combination. So I'm placing down my cardstock and again hinging layer number 1 with purple tape at the top. I'm using the lighter potato chip at the top and bottom of my stencil, and then using the darker pineapple ink in the center. By using both a light and a dark in the same ink color, I was able to get a little bit more dimension in my backgrounds and create that bokeh effect that kind of features a more faded look in some of the dots and a brighter look in others. Now I'm moving on to the layer 2. This is going to be the same color combination as the last one, so I actually do not need to wash my stencil. I'm using Sprinkles at the top and bottom, and then the darker Blue Raspberry in the center. The hinge really helps this process go so much faster because I can just lift it up and place the next panel down. Now that I've added color to all 8 of the panels, I'm going to apply glitter gel through the 3rd layer of the stencil. I wanted a sparkly element for these, and so I thought the Stickles glitter gels would be perfect. I'll be using the Nebula glitter gel on the boyish color combination. This glitter gel features confetti stars throughout, so it adds kind of a fun effect. When I scrape those stars over the top of the stencil, you can see them along with the clear glitter gel. By doing all of the same step at once and using that hinge element, I don't even have to wash my stencil between each panel. Next, I'll move on to my girl colored backgrounds. Using the same method, I've washed my stencil and now I'm placing a hinge at the top with purple tape, and this time I'm going to use Moon Dust Stickles glitter gel to scrape over the top. There's no confetti in this one, so it's just a clear glitter effect over the top of each of those panels. I've set these panels aside to dry, and it's important to note that it does take about an hour for these to dry completely. So I'm going to move on to the next step, stamping my On the Block Happy. I've conditioned my Earl Grey cardstock with a powder tool, and I'm going to stamp that with Versamark ink. I'm going to move the paper up as I go so that I can emboss several of these at the same time. I can get 4 on one piece of cardstock, and then do that twice to get 8 complete sentiments. After stamping these, I will emboss them with my fine detail white embossing powder, just pouring that over the top and making sure that I get those extra bits off. I use a paintbrush to do that before I heat it with my heat tool. Once that's finished, I'm going to use my desktop Sidekick machine to cut these out. So first I trimmed them apart so they would fit on those smaller platforms. I'm using Scotch removable tape to hold the die down, and then we'll run those individually through the Sidekick machine. You can see it creates the perfect shadow around the outside of the embossed happy word, and I'll do that until I have all 8 finished. Next, we'll move on to the On Repeat birthday stamp. This features our innovative alignment squares so that you can line up the die perfectly over the top and cut out several birthdays at once. Birthday cards are something that we all mass produce, and so we thought this would make it very easy to do that, so you don't have to stamp a large stamp several times in order to get multiple birthday sentiments. So you can heat emboss this again using Earl Grey cardstock and white embossing powder, making sure you emboss those squares that are included on the stamp so you can line up the coordinating die. When you die cut that, you'll be left with 8 birthday sentiments, 4 on a flagged banner and 4 on a rectangle die cut. I'll be adding balloons to my birthday cards, so I've chosen 2 images from the Balloon Bouquet Edition set. I'm stamping those in Lollipop and Blue Raspberry. The Blue Raspberry will go with the boy cards and the Lollipop will go with the girl cards. I'm going to send those through my Sidekick machine, cutting out all 8 balloons and setting them aside. Once my Stickles glitter gel is dry, I'm using the largest of the petite rectangle scallop stacklets to cut out all of those panels, just reducing the size slightly so they fit nicely on an A2 card base. I'm going to cut my card bases next, 4 from Lollipop cardstock and 4 from Cookie Monster cardstock, and then I'll score those down at 4 1/4 and fold them with my bone folder. Once all the card bases are scored and folded, it's time to assemble the cards. I have small piles of all of the elements, and I start by putting adhesive on all of the pieces. I'm using a 1/2-inch square roll of foam tape. These are already cut in foam squares, and so it's easy to adhere them all. I don't have to do any cutting of the adhesive, and I can just place them down on the back of my blended panels. Next, I'm going to add an adhesive square to the back of all of the balloons, and then use my foam sticky strips to add strips of adhesive to the back of all of the happy die cuts. It takes a little bit of time, but I do find it saves time doing all of the adhesive at once. Now it's time to adhere the projects together. I'll start by showing you how one of each is going to come together, adhering those pieces just how I want. I'm adding liquid glue to the back of that balloon string and cutting off a little bit of it so that it fits a little bit better on the project. So I have a girly version finished, and I can continue with the boy version, doing the same steps, adding that glue at the last minute to tack it down to the front of the card. So here I have one of each card completed. It took a little bit of time to adhere these together, but it went really fast with all of my adhesive and pieces prepped and ready to go. And now I have 8 birthday cards ready to send to friends and family. I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned some tips and tricks for mass producing. You can find all of these products at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com.